Welcome to another episode of Tamara Simon's Live and the Real Estate Power Chat. I'm so excited for you to get to know Kathy Carter. I'm telling you, this is one magical lady here. So stay tuned because, as you know, first things first.
This is Tamara Simon's Live, where real estate agents from around the globe come together to grow, collaborate, and expand their business. Where we take our inspiring conversations and put them together to create dynamic connections. This is the Real Estate Power Chat.
Well, thank you so much for coming today, Kathy. I so appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me. Love that intro. I'm back here to the music.
Well, got to be a little groovy,
I love it.
Amp up the adrenaline.
That's it.
So how are you today?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
I couldn't be better.
That's great. I like that line. What was that line? Somebody I used to ask that all the time, like, how are you doing today? And oh shoot, I forgot what he said. Any day above ground's a great day, I think is what he used to say. I'm like, that's true. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a good friend that, they're like, how are you? And he's like, oh, I love my life. Thanks for asking.
I love that. I love it. People are always expecting, I'm fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And that just means that you really don't know what to say.
Yeah. That's right.
So Kathy, for my audience to kind of get to know you, how about you just kind of give us a little bit about Kathy Carter?
Okay. So I'm out in Nashville, Tennessee, and have grown up here. I'm one of the, I feel like I'm not, we're unicorns here, right? There's so many people that have moved in but been doing real estate for 24 years. My husband actually partnered and joined me in about 5 or 6 years into my real estate career. So I got in 99. He came on board in 2005. And then when we went through the fun 2009, 10, 11 years, that wasn't so fun, us being full-time realtors together at that time. But have loved the journey of real estate. And, we have 2 boys that are both grown. They're in their young and mid 30s, and our youngest just got engaged. So neither one of them been married, no grandkids. And last year I was like, okay, we are about to the point where I'm going to be setting up arranged marriages because they weren't. Well, my youngest had just gotten into a serious relationship, but I was like, we're going to have arranged marriages and adopting grandbabies, if y'all don't get on with this program. But anyway, about 2 weeks ago, our youngest got engaged. So,
how exciting. Congrats.
I know, we're excited. And just last Thursday, my husband and I celebrated 38 years of marriage. So, yeah.
Congrats on that. That's not something you hear of much anymore.
Yes. That's true. That's a whole nother conversation we can
Absolutely.
have.
Absolutely. So how is it working with your husband in real estate? Because I know that not everyone wants to be with their spouse all the time.
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I'll say at this point of our career, he's more on the part-time. So we don't work as closely as we once did. But there's ups and downs. I mean, there's some great things about it because, you're both striving for the same dreams, right? All of that together. And I was always the rainmaker. He was more the support person, and he liked it that way because he ended up, joining me. Like I said, it was really never a plan that was going to play out that way. I had just gotten so busy. I needed help. And, I was just going to go start building a team in 2005. We ended up started doing that anyway, even after he came on board because we just needed more help. But it's been good. The thing, if I went back and what I feel like if there's anything I could teach or tell somebody today that was looking to bring their spouse on, is that you've got to make sure you define your roles together. Because again, when it was all good and we were running and gunning and going, it was great because I was just going and doing. And, he was kind of following behind doing the things I need him to do, showing houses here, showing houses there. But when the market all came to a screeching halt in 2009, because we hadn't really slowed down enough to set definitions about like, what are we going to do if the market ever turns? That became, honestly, I would say even a struggle in our marriage, working full time together, and then having the real estate just take a complete turn like that. And, we'd been married a long time, even at that point. And, man, we really had to come together through those times in a different way.
I would imagine so. Because I remember those days, and my husband doesn't work with me in real estate, but it's, it can take a toll on marriage when all of a sudden, you're used to bringing so much in, and then all of a sudden you're like, who hit the brick wall?
Yeah, that's about what happened, isn't it? I mean, and it was, everybody felt that way, in real
Yeah.
estate. So many of our friends lost houses, short sale houses, had foreclosed. We were fortunate that didn't happen, but we sold our house. We way downsized. I mean, all of that. So those were some different years for sure.
Absolutely.
Going through that, as a married couple.
Yeah, I can imagine so. Now, you've been in business now 24 years. How did you get into real estate?
Mhm. So I was in the corporate world. I had actually got my license when I was about 21, and my sister had gotten her license. She's 12 years older than me, and we have completely different personalities. And I thought, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I got my license. And my husband and I had just gotten married, and we had a baby, and that next year, and I realized really quick that that real estate was a full-time gig, right? And so had just started in the corporate world, and I was trying to do real estate part-time, realized that wasn't, like I said, I realized it was a full-time gig. And so I ended up stepping out of it. And then it wasn't until about 14 years later that I got my license again. So it was just always something, there wasn't one thing that drew me to it. It just, when my sister got her license, it was like, and I started listening to like Tom Hopkins. I don't know if you remember him back in the day, but I would listen to his audios, and Zig Ziglar, which he wasn't really about real estate, but I'd listen to that stuff, and it was something about real estate that just excited me. And I always thought one day I'm going to do that. And so I got my license again, and like I said, about 14 years after starting climbing the corporate ladder, and the rest is history. It was never a plan, like I said, to bring my husband along. I just was so into it and loving every minute of it. I just, became successful, if you will, because I loved it. I mean, everything about it I loved. I mean, I was a sponge. I wanted to be in every class I could be in. I was just like learn. But then I'm out there talking to anybody and everybody. We're at dinner. My husband, some back in the day, if you can remember, you may not. You're probably too young, but remember back in the day they had the Homes magazines. Like
Yep.
if I saw somebody in a restaurant with the Homes magazine, like I'm talking to them before we walk out the door. My husband was like, "Do not talk to them." Like they're trying to have dinner. And I said, I'm not pulling a chair up. I just, so I was talking to anybody and everybody. And, just, I loved it all.
That's
So
funny
really
that you
wasn't,
say that.
yeah, I didn't love necessarily looking at houses. It wasn't that. It was just, I don't know.
Relationships.
Yeah. What's that relation? That's it. That is it right there. Yes.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of this business.
Yes.
But no, I remember back in the day, my mentor would actually tell me, doesn't matter where you're at. If you're sitting down for dinner, you always ask the question. And my husband would sit there when we was first going together, and he's like, please don't ask. Please don't ask. And I would ask.
Yeah. You have to. I mean, it's, when it becomes part of you and it's like who you are. And, I'm sure you felt like I felt, especially after I got a little bit of experience. I'm like, I'm the best realtor for them. Like, why wouldn't I just tell them this is what I do? Right. Like, I mean, I really felt like I could, be the best resource for them, especially people that we knew. But yeah, so it's been an awesome career.
Wonderful. Now, you even actually became a managing broker at some point, correct?
Yeah, so I started Coldwell Banker, then Steve came along, and in about 7 years after being there, I learned about the Keller Williams model and read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent way back in the early 2000s, and moved over there. And about 2 years into being there, I became the managing broker for at one of the Keller Williams offices, and did that for about 3.5 years. That was actually right before the market started shifting. And then when that started shifting, I was like, man, I really need to be focused more on my business, because as a managing broker, you got all the headaches and liability responsibility that came with that, but the salary doesn't follow. You still, we still had to sell. And so after about 3.5 years, I stepped out of that. But yeah, that, I ended up, I think we had at the time we had 110 agents, and that just, I spent most of my days trying to keep us out of court. Is really at the end of the day what I felt like I did. And thankfully, I'll say in those 3.5 years, we never ended up in arbitration, court, any of that. But it was a lot of work. Things happen in transactions, right? Doesn't necessarily mean people are intentionally doing things wrong, but we carry a lot of responsibility what we do as realtors.
Oh, definitely. Now, and I'm sure you felt that being a managing broker. I mean, because you get everyone's problems.
All of them. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for sure. And like I said, I just spent so much time trying to keep us out of, either fighting over, money, right, from arbitration standpoint, or just out of courts, from being sued. And so it's a lot of responsibility, when you're a managing broker, because at the end of the day, if your agent does something, and obviously we can't manage every single minute thing that they do, right? And if they do something, now, and some, their client, or maybe on the other side of the deal, the other person's client thinks your agent was in the wrong or did something incorrect, you're now, as the manager broker, you're trying to, again, figure out how to make it right for everybody, right? And this wasn't about me, but one of the agents that I knew who actually owned a Remax franchise, he decided he was done with ownership, and he was the managing broker as well. When he got sued, they got sued because his agent's client, their buyer, couldn't fit their truck into the garage in the house they just bought. And so, I mean, those are some of the, what I would say, ridiculous things that we deal with sometimes. I mean, that was at no fault of anybody's, right? That he didn't measure the garage or say, hey, I've got a huge truck, I might ought to measure before I buy a house, right? But after the deal, he couldn't get his truck in and he sued him. But those are some of the things, as a managing broker that you might end up dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely. As crazy as it may sound, I mean, I've heard and seen a lot of crazy things go across the desk of the brokers that I've been with, and I think there was a time when I wanted to be a broker, and then that changed, and now I just, I'm not that, and I'm perfectly happy not to be the broker. Yeah. How about you?
100%. I am 100% happy not being the broker. I mean, especially with EXP and the model that we have here, and are able to do, it really allows me to do when you're in real estate and you think about, I was having this conversation with somebody today, the progression of real estate. Many years ago, I read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and in the cash flow quadrant. And, in that book, Robert Kiyosaki talks about running a business. And after I read that book, this was many, many years ago, I thought, how do realtors truly run a business? Because the way he described it is, you're leveraged, you have systems in place. It's not about you being there all the time, right? He's like, if you can't leave your business for a year or more without the wheels falling off the bus, then really you're just self-employed and you own a job. And I was like, that's me. Like, all these years I thought I was a business owner, but I could not leave. I wasn't leveraged and what have you. And so when I went into the broker role, I thought, okay, this is one way that I can start building some leverage. But then again, all the liability and the responsibility and the headaches all came along with that, right? And so And then I started looking at my husband, Steve, and I we looked at actually opening a Remax franchise back in 2007, because I'm like, this whole idea of building a business has always just been on my mind, in real estate, because agents don't ever usually have exit strategies. I'm like, heck, they don't even save for taxes every year, let alone thinking about exit strategies. And so, again, the progression after years of being in the business, it's like, okay, we had the traditional team, became a revolving door, 2 years into it. They're like, hey, thanks for pouring into me. I don't quote unquote need you anymore. And they go off on their own. Right. So then I'm like, okay, well, the next thing is let's open a brokerage. But then when we really started looking at the cost of that and everything that went along with that, thankfully we didn't do that, because it wasn't, but a year or two later that the bottom fell out of it. But that's just something that, had always just played in my mind, even when I was the managing broker. It was like, we've got to figure out how to get full leverage here.
Oh, absolutely. Now, is that something that drew you, into taking the leap of faith and joining EXP?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I said, when I saw the model, it was 3,200 agents. This was 5 years ago. It was I'd never heard of the company, but when I saw the model, I think because I'd always searched for a model, like I didn't know what I was searching for, but when I saw it, I was like, man, if this works, this is going to really liberate a lot of realtors, and it's going to really allow us to truly build that business that I've been seeking to do without all the liability and headache and responsibilities and everything that go along with it. And I said, what's the worst thing that can happen? We make a move. I didn't know if the company was going to even survive, because it was 3,200 agents. Like I said, worst thing that can happen, we go pour into everything we have for a year. And if it doesn't work out, we'll just go back where we came from. Right. So obviously 5 years later, at the level that the company's at now, at 84,000 agents we just passed, obviously it survived, and we never left. And it's more than it exceeded the expectations that I had 5 years ago.
That's wonderful. Now, how many agents have you been able to help since you've been with EXP?
So we actually have been able to, because it allows us to expand the boundaries, right? When we were looking to build that Remax, we would have been kind of, we would have to stay in the backyard of Nashville, which is where I'm at in Tennessee. But because the model that we're part of with EXP, it allows us to expand our borders all over the United States, as well as, 21 different countries that we're in, 22 now, because I think we just opened Chile. But we've got, now we have been able to partner and work with and help a little over 1,600 agents.
That's fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things that, the whole being able to lift up agents in this business is one of the things that I thrive on.
Yeah.
The whole collaboration. And I'm fortunate enough, I get to meet, wonderful agents such as yourself. And I've built a lot of relationships with agents that before they were just competition.
That's right. That's what's beautiful. And that's been a surprise. There's been so many surprises along the way. That's one of the core values. And I've been at other places that they talk about, they have core values, but you never hear them spoken about. Right. And so when I thought collaboration was one of the core values, I really didn't expect that it would play out as it has played out. But really, because all of us as agents, we have ownership in the company. We all have this vested interest in one another, right? It's like, it behooves me to help you be the best realtor you can be, so that, the better you do, the better the company does, the better theoretically our stock will do. And this created this collaboration that I love, that I've never experienced anywhere else like we do here.
Oh, absolutely. Because I've caught a lot of flack because I'm one that's always, even in my market, they're not doing so well. And I'm like, here, try this.
Oh, yeah.
Here, try this. And everybody's like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
I just, I can't service the entire state myself.
At the end of the day, too, it just comes down from having an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset, and there's enough for everybody. really.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing that, when Glenn Sanford made the decision to build EXP, that's one of the things, he really nailed. He really nailed
100%.
that was, getting agents together, collaborating instead of competing against one another.
Yeah. He did nail that. And, I think it is done is I think the culture with that internally is what it is because he leads with that. Like
Mhm.
everything I ever hear the man talk about is about how are we going to help our agents do better and be better? How are we going to help our agents want to help the other agents by giving them a hand up, not stepping on their head? And so not only did he nail it, I feel like he lives, eats, and breathes it. And
Mhm.
so it's not just words. It's like a true
Absolutely.
culture that is from him down.
Absolutely. And you feel that. I mean, you
Yeah.
honestly feel that with the people that you meet inside this company.
Yes.
Everyone's willing to reach down the ladder and lift, and help you up. I mean, they want to see you succeed because everyone succeeds if they help one agent succeed. I mean, it's just, it just makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
you
Yeah.
know, but I think you have to reach that point in time where it makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, had you seen the model before you joined?
Mhm. No, I'd never even heard of it. And funny enough, it was a new agent that I knew, Sean Sturrock. He reached out to me. He had just gotten his license. He's in Texas, but I knew him and always respected him and liked him. And he was like, "Hey, Kathy, I know you've been doing real estate a long time, and I just joined real estate. I just partnered with this company, and I respect what you've done in real estate. Will you look at it and just tell me I didn't just go jump into the wrong place?" And he'd already done it at that point. But anyway, when I looked, he just sent me a video about it, and I was like, "Wow, this is amazing! This is amazing." And I thought, if this really does become a company of substance, this is going to change the industry. And it's obviously we've done that.
Oh,
Like,
for
I feel like
sure.
Gary Keller did that when he started Keller
Mhm.
Williams, right? And there's been no other company that's come along. And, Remax was the one that started it back in the day. And then Gary came along and started Keller Williams. And it was a complete different business model. And, they grew to where they're at today, right? 160, their largest agent count in the world with 160, 170,000 agents. And nobody has come along and, disrupted the Keller Williams world, if you will, until EXP. And now here we are, the fastest growing real estate company in the history of real estate, because when you look at the model, it's just so different than the traditional real estate model. When Gary started Keller Williams back then, it was so different than the traditional, the Coldwell Bankers, the Remaxes, right? All those. And he came along, disrupted it, and now I think that's what EXP is doing for sure, or has
Oh,
done.
definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
It's definitely a disruption for sure.
yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
throughout your entire 24 years, congrats on staying in this business that long.
Mhm. Thank you.
Did you do any coaching or training or that helped you be as successful as you are? I mean, because you're a very successful agent even still.
Yes, I did. I've always been an advocate about for coaching and training. Like, and still am. I'm not in real estate coaching, but I'm more, I'd say these days, in personal development coaching, because I'm always, and I have always for years, just strive to be the best version of myself. But yeah, I was part of Craig Proctor's real estate coaching program, and his at the platinum level, and that's sort of the highest level. And I was around some of the highest producing agents in the country, and his program was great. I loved his program. I was a part of that for several years, and he was a lot of out of the box marketing ideas, things like that.
Mhm.
And so I did that for several years. But I'm a huge proponent of mentors and coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember I actually got involved with Craig Proctor through the short sell days.
Oh yeah.
And I learned a lot. I learned a lot. He had a different training style than most real estate coaches.
Yeah. He did. He did. I always felt like, he was really good marketer. I felt, he really just had a lot of like I said, out of the box ideas that weren't just your, typical real estate coach, call 10 people a day or whatever the number is, right? That they would tell you. Craig really had a lot of great marketing ideas about how to separate yourself from your competition and what have you. So, yeah, those were he was really good, I feel like, at what he did. And
Oh,
he's still around.
absolutely.
He's still around. Yeah.
Well, and I've started to see new ads coming
Yeah.
up. And it's funny because I'm like, I'm having deja vu moments where
No. Yeah. I get them too. They come across my news feed on Facebook. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, oh, I've been here before.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Except it's completely different this time around.
Man, it's all so different. I mean, even talking about Facebook, when I got in, we had Homes magazines, like I said, we'd had Homes magazines, and I just feel like, wow. And that is kind of talking about the coaching and the mentorship and all. That's why, like, and collaboration, why I am always in conversations with other top agents, because I feel like more than ever, our industry is just changing so fast, right? And being able to stay on top of it all. I mean, having you got Facebook, you got Instagram, you got YouTube, you got LinkedIn, you got TikTok. You're like, oh my gosh. And it's like, just when you start learning Facebook, then, they throw in, now Instagram and all these other things I just mentioned, right? And it's like, wait a minute, I'm just getting Facebook down. I'm like, and I feel like things are happening at rapid speed, don't you, in our business?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, because I'm like, okay, I jump on board and I start hitting all of the different social platforms. And then I'm like, this is a full-time job in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't sell real estate and be on every single platform at the same time because I get lost.
Yeah, it's so much. Yeah. It
And
really,
it's a bit of a distraction.
yeah.
Don't you find that? I mean, and I guess that makes me a bit of an old school because I've been doing this 18 years. And so I guess that makes me a little old school, but I'm like, I got to do the platforms and I know I got to be out there, but I have to still, stay in business at the same time,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
It
know?
is a balancing act for sure. Staying out there on social media, doing the things we need to on social media, marketing our properties the way we need to on social media, right? Juggling all of that. And then, I gotta have time in between here to show some houses and all the other stuff that we do. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, how is the market in Tennessee?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing a shift. But I think Nashville, I've just been reading some articles this past week, in the last week or so, that I think I guess if there's safe markets, I think we're probably one of the safer markets where, the predictions are we're not going to lose the values that some of the areas have already started seeing, right? Our sales are going to still stay, relatively high, just very little dip in them. But what we are starting to see is, some things what we're really starting to see at the end of the day, Tamara, is a normalized market, because what we haven't been in for the last 2 years is a normal market, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like we're getting back to really what a normal market is. It might take your house 2, 3, 4 weeks to sell. You may not get 20 offers in the first 2 hours like we did for the last 18
Mhm.
months. That was not normal. And so I feel like here, what's happening is we're just normalizing, which is a good thing. Every single person, every single realtor I has talked to, we're all like just happy that the market has stabilized like it needed to do.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was praying that we would eventually come back around, as I'm marketing homes at the time that, you know, aren't in the best of shape
Yeah.
at all. And I mean, I've got 20 and 30 offers in 12 hours of being on the market.
Yeah. It was nuts. Yeah.
And it was just that race to the finish line because there was, so many buyers and not enough inventory.
Yeah.
And now we're getting that level of, almost to where we've got enough buyers to, and inventory to where it kind of levels itself
Yeah.
out. which
Yeah.
can I just say hallelujah?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was hard for these poor buyers. You're right through all that. It was hard. And so yeah, I'm with you. Hallelujah.
Yeah. Now it's just having the right conversations with our sellers and
That's
getting
it.
them, on board with a normalizing market.
Yeah. And I feel like that's getting easier and easier because I feel like here anyway, where we started seeing it, I guess, plateau is around April, right? And
Mhm.
so I feel like April, May, maybe even into June, it was the sellers were not seeing it. They were seeing their next door neighbor's house sold, for X price and sold in 24 hours with multiple offers. And then if sellers were listing their home around that time, that's when I started seeing, okay, we're not getting multiple offers in 24 hours, right? It might take you a couple of weeks. And those conversations for those first few months, I felt like were difficult. Now I feel like now that we've seen it for a few months,
Mhm.
sellers have finally started understanding, because now their neighbor's house didn't necessarily sell in 2.4 seconds, right?
Yeah.
So, now they're kind of catching on, but at least that's how it's been around here. I felt like those real hard conversations to try to help sellers understand was April, May, June time frame.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we're starting to see, some, market corrections. It's not necessarily price reductions as it
Mhm.
is, just getting the correction in the market going, okay, this is actually where that home needs to be,
Yeah.
not necessarily where, it might have been a year ago.
Right, or even 6
You know?
months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the price reductions, which we're seeing those all the time, but I feel like those are for the sellers that are not wanting to be, quote,
Mhm.
unquote, "realistic." They're still thinking 3, 6 months ago, right? Or, 9 months ago. They're still thinking, "Hey, let's just push it." And then, the market is just not where it was. And so we're seeing a lot of price reductions, but it's really the price reductions are brought down to where they should have been to begin with. And,
Yeah.
they just didn't want to necessarily believe that, at the time when they first listed it.
Now, how do your numbers look so far for the year? Because I mean, we're just going into that fourth quarter. So, how is your team doing so far this year?
Are you talking about the whole EXP team or just
Well,
the?
you and your husband and building, and because you're a team amongst each other.
Yeah.
So, how is that?
Yeah.
How is that going this year?
So for us, I'd say we're because at this stage in my business and where we are in our business, we're not trying to grow. Really at this point, all of our business that we work is referral based, right? So it's just
Mhm.
past clients. We've been in this long enough, and we've been in it long time, and so we're not out there trying to scale and continue to grow. We're just maintaining, and I'd say that's what we're doing this year is maintaining because we've been able to build this whole company, if you will, under the umbrella. It has helped us be able to work a lot with our other agents that are not on the quote unquote traditional team, like with my me and my husband have
Right.
together. And so our focus isn't so much on growing our personal business, but I want to make sure that the agents that are part of within our organization under the umbrella of EXP, that they know all the things that we've got going on. Because we've got so much going on, not only as a company, but even within our home, we're doing a lot of things as well. So I
That's
feel like to a
wonderful.
degree, it's just making sure people are in the know about, hey, all these things we've got going on. Different masterminds, different trainings, different things like that we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in fact, you're on a mastermind that's tomorrow that I really want to join in on.
Yeah. On the 25, which one is that? The 25, no, not how to sell 25. Are you talking about tomorrow or on which one?
Tomorrow,
Okay, which one are we?
Tuesday. Frida is aren't you
On the
aren't you
freedom.
on the Freedom Builder?
Yeah, yeah, freedom team. Yeah, the
Yeah,
one where it sells 25 homes a year consistently. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I think that's such huge knowledge to share, and as a EXP mentor myself, I love to pass on great information.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's going to be good. One of our agents, he does that. It's really still 25. We've got him coming in and it's still 25 homes a year on, with a minimal budget, which is even nicer. Like, it's not like, hey, you have to go out and spend a lot of money. And so he consistently has sold that year after year after year. With minimal, with a minimal budget. So I love
That
that.
makes it nice. That makes it really nice.
Yeah.
Because, as if you ask any other marketer out there, when they see a real estate agent, they think they're rich.
It's so funny. That's so true. And, I've said, man, how can we educate, how can we really educate the public? Like, that I think thanks to HGTV, everybody thinks, oh, you show 3 houses, drive fancy cars, and make a lot of money. And our
Yeah.
business is so far from really what's portrayed on TV or even what the general public thinks that we do. It's just really so different. I mean, you got to be a marketer, you've got to build a business, you've got to, be able to be there for your clients. There's so many hats that we wear in just starting a business or keeping a business going that is, and I think that what most people don't realize is the average realtor only sells 6 houses a year according to the
Yeah.
National Association of Realtors, and you can't survive on 6 houses a year because I also think what people don't understand is we're 100% commission. So if we're not closing on homes, we're making no money.
Yeah.
And even when we're closing on homes, like, you're putting a lot of money out. And so, I mean, an agent that's closing 6 homes a year, they're not eating, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what the average realtor
You
does.
do. You have to put so much money out. So it's, you're spending a lot of that commission that you're bringing in that, you're not actually taking home to put food on the table or
Yeah.
to keep a roof over your head. I mean, and that's a lot of things, about our industry that the consumer and the public just doesn't know.
They don't understand. Yeah. I mean, it's a true business. It's no different than you or I went out and opened a pizza shop, right? You're starting a business. So not only do you got your brick and mortar where we don't necessarily need that, but but now it's like you got to get all the supplies, you got to bring all that in. And then once you've done all that, you've got the store ready to go. Now you got to go figure out how to get the customers through the door. And how do you figure out how to keep them coming, right? And so as a realtor, that's what we're doing. Like, nobody's given us buyers or sellers, right? We are opening the doors to a business, and now we've got to market and do all the things that one would do at the pizza store I keep hitting this pen thing that's right behind me. If you hear it,
I'm a talker with my hands too. So.
I keep hitting it. But yeah, like, we're truly, running businesses or starting, businesses when we come into real estate.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
even realtors, I don't think I know I did not fully understand what I was getting myself into when I started, right? It's unfortunately it's a relatively easy business to get into, but you don't really realize what you're getting into. And what people also don't realize is, like, what is 80% of agents get out of the business within their first 2 years. Because they get in and they realize, well, first of all, if they're only selling 4 or 5, 6 houses, like we talked about, you're not eating, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not paying your bills, and then secondly, they don't realize, oh man, this is a business I'm actually having to
Oh
start.
yeah, you have to work it every single day.
Yeah.
It's not like, I mean, otherwise you have no consistency,
Yeah.
and therefore you're not paying the bills.
Yeah. That's
You're
right.
not eating. You're not.
Yeah.
You're definitely not a business owner at that point.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, I have absolutely loved having you on here today, and I don't want to take up much more of your time because you're a busy lady. And so, what's 3 tips that you would give new agents out there?
3 tips that I would give new agents. I would say find a mentor, find somebody that that's performing at the level of business that you want to get to, and soak up every single thing you can from that person, like asking, what did you do to get to where you're at? Right. So I think that's for sure. I would get with a mentor. I would become a sponge in the education world. When I got into real estate, every class I could attend with our company, I attended, and every class outside. I think I have literally every designation known to man in the real estate industry because I just wanted to know. wanted all the information and all the knowledge, not because I felt like I needed to get going, but I wanted to be the best in the field. And so I would, there's so much education that like we have at EXP, and other companies have their own education too. So I'd say plug into that. And the third thing is, I would say that you need to figure out early on two things: how to truly build a business so that one day you can exit the business. Like, I would say that you need to start thinking about the end at the beginning of your career, because agents get into this business and they don't think about like paying taxes. That was the second thing I was going to talk about. Make sure you prepare to pay your taxes every year, because so many agents that I hear every year, they're like, man, I didn't put the money aside for my taxes. And then that becomes a stressful liability, right? So pay your taxes every year, take a part of your commission every time you get it, put a percentage away, 20, 25%, whatever you decide, but take that out right off the top. And then simultaneously, it's like again, and this sort of goes back to education, but how do I build a true business to be able to one day walk away from it? Because unfortunately in our industry, I don't feel like our industry teaches that. And so you've got to seek that knowledge. You've got to seek the mentors. You've got to seek the people that can help you do that. And here at EXP, obviously we do that. So, I'd say if anything about that component resonates with you, reach out to Tamara or myself and let us show you what that looks like under the EXP model.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again. It's so
Thank
great
you for
to
having me.
and to just have a nice conversation with you and share your knowledge with my audience. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it a lot. Next time I'll have a fancier backdrop. Like, I look plain compared to your awesome backdrop there.
Well, my backdrop today, I learned that my lights would actually flash. So I was like,
love
hey,
it.
we'll go with some flashing lights today. So
No fun. I love it. And those are my colors, like I told you earlier. I love purple and black. Looks good. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate
thank
it.
you. You enjoy the rest of your day. And everyone, we will see you on the next one.